And now we're recording. So welcome to Friday again. On the projection, you guys see we're about to have a pep rally here. We've got about a half hour till we're going to get to that because it's got a nice short Friday day. Okay. And you guys have all picked up your projects from yesterday, right? Okay. And we're going to complete that. So you guys opted to do the Geneva Drive, and for most of the way there, which is good because we got about 30 minutes, but we got just enough time to put this together. Right, so if you kept pace with me yesterday, then you probably have a couple parts that look like this. Right? Remember I was saying that there are parts there that are important about this and parts that are maybe not much. For example, the number of pegs on the peg wheel. If you have 1 or 2 or 3, that's not super important. Right? The number of teeth on the teeth wheel, also not super important. But what is important about the teeth is that they're evenly spaced. Right? That's all yesterday's stuff, right? Now we got to actually put this together. So we go back to the model, so we can take a look at the model. Got to spin like this. Okay. The last parts we got to take care of, we do this right now, are, well, I need some kind of axle system for these to spin on, right? Now you can use your imagination. There's probably different ways to do it, but considering we got clock ticket here, I'll just go ahead and show you my personal solution if you want to opt for this one. Okay. See, I've got a couple of cylinders on each one. Notice I've got a small cylinder fitting into a large cylinder, right? So a small fit into large, right? And hey, I've got a couple of pairs of those, right? So fit like that. Now, 2 other considerations are, think about the spacing between these 2 axes is really important. The spacing is. Here, I'll show you guys why. So when I put this all back together and start to spin this, okay, see, if these were too far apart, then this peg would never even touch these teeth, right? And then would never work, right? If they're too close together, then it's just going to get all jammed up, and that's not going to work either. So I know we're thinking ahead a few steps, but that's very important. And also, here's the other consideration. Again, thinking ahead a few steps, right? When symmetry comes into play. Okay? Notice how, see if I turn the page like this, you guys can see that these 2 pegs, these 2 cylinders, the large diameter of the axis, those cylinders, are not the same height. Notice that one's actually taller than the other. You guys can see that? Right. Now that is important because on the short one, I'm going to put the pegs, and on the tall one, I'm going to put the one with the teeth. Right? Because notice when this is spinning, see how the pegged wheel actually comes up underneath the toothed wheel? See that? Right? Got to think in 3 dimensions, right? But you guys can do that. You guys can think in 3 dimensions like that. Okay. So that is the model rundown on how we're finishing this off. I need some cylinders that I can turn into an axis system. You guys remember how we made cylinders yesterday? Just cut a rectangle and loop that into a cylinder. Okay. So I'm going to make a rectangle that's longer than I need. You guys see what size this is. In case you want some exact numbers, this is about 10 or 11 centimeters long and about 3.5 centimeters wide. Okay. I'm going to loop this into a cylinder, and it's actually going to provide, I'm going to chop it in half later, so I'm going to have 2 cylinders. I'm going to get out those 2 skinny cylinders that are going to become part of the axis system. Okay. Grab a pencil. You might want to wrap around a pencil. That's a good idea. I've got this ink cartridge. If you guys are stuck with, I know there are like 2 or 3 glue bottles out there that are a little bit sketchy. So if you have one of them that's not really working, then we do have lots of empty desks today because lots of band kits are out. Okay. You can trade your glue bottle if you need to. Okay. Put some glue down there. Remember, there's an optimal amount of glue. So put on too much, it's going to take a long time to dry. So see if you can find that optimal amount. Okay. Then press and hold it for about 20 seconds. Should dry. Okay. All right. So mine's ready to go. Right. Now, remember that this is going to be part of an axis system, so I need like a skinny cylinder and a large cylinder, right? Two different diameter sizes. So I'm going to take another rectangle and wrap it around this one so that I can get the large diameter cylinder. Right? Also, by wrapping it around this one, I can know right away if it's going to be too tight or too loose. Right? Too tight, it's not going to spin. Too loose, it might fall over, might not stay upright. Okay, so there's going to be like an optimal size. Think of it like a Goldilocks size, like diameter size for this. So I'm going to take this new rectangle, same like the other one, about 10 or 11 centimeters long. Okay. I'm going to wrap it around the old cylinder, because remember, these are going to fit together. It's going to create the axle system. And remember, I want to be able to spin one and the other. Not too tight, not too loose. That looks pretty good, right? Right about there. Okay. Throw in some glue. Second place. All right. Make sure, because I really want the right size on this. I think I'll make that a little tighter. All right. Now I've got two cylinders that fit inside each other really nice, like this. That'd be a good axle system right there, right? Okay. Now these cylinders are way longer than I need. Again, like over 10 centimeters long each. Okay. So I'm going to chop these in half so that I have two sets of axes. So just chop this whole thing in half, the top, right? That are identical to each other, right? So one axis system, there's going to be the other axis system. Like that. So I think what I want to do, you can do the opposite of what I'm going to do if you want, is take the large diameter one and eventually glue that to the baseboard, but I'm going to save that for later, and take the small diameter cylinder and glue that directly to the underside of each wheel. I'll start with the one with the pegs on it. Okay, so I'm going to glue this right in the middle. I'm going to use the same technique that I did yesterday, cut feet into it. Now, this cylinder I don't want to be very tall because see if this is on a really tall cylinder, like really tall axis, then if it's too tall, it's going to be wobbly and start to wobble over, right? So if you keep it kind of short, let's say about a centimeter long, see, that's about a centimeter right there. Right? That's probably a good optimal size. Right? So go around. I'm going to cut really long feet into this so that I have a really nice short cylinder, right? Long enough to keep it in place and keep it stable. Short enough, it's not going to be all super wobbly. Probably right about there. Okay. Take some glue. Glue these feet. And attach that directly to the underside of, well, again, I'm starting with the one with the pegs on it. Okay. So try to get that right in the middle. Okay. Now, if I look at it from the side, I can turn it all the way around. Okay, I got to slide it this way a little bit. I'm comparing it to the one on top. Yesterday, we did put the, well, if you kept pace with me, then should have the one we're going to hand turn right in the middle. Right, that one's already in the middle, so I want this one to be aligned directly underneath it. It's the opposite side. Got that one. Thanks for bringing. See how you guys are doing. All right. Oh yeah, these are looking pretty good. All right. All right, so I'm going to move on to my next part, which is just do the same thing but to the other gear. Right, so I just put the small diameter axle on the underside of the peg one. So I mean the same thing with the tooth gear now. Right, so got this one. Right. Now yesterday, remember the tooth gear? Okay, obviously has teeth and it has these gaps. Yesterday, what I did was I just cut incisions and I just folded the flaps back. What I found, put these together earlier today with other classes, it's better to go ahead and tear these off. Or what some students were doing was just gluing them down, like gluing them in place. But if you leave them out, then they tend to catch on stuff and just gum up the works. So either glue them down or tear them off. I'm tearing them off right now. Same thing, I want to cut some feet in this one. Now you might remember that the tooth gear is going to sit up a little bit higher. So if you keep that in mind, and these feet you cut don't have to be as long, so that it sit up a little bit higher. I'm actually going to use the base cylinder that I haven't attached yet, the large diameters, to determine how high up these sit. Okay. All right. Got this going. It's attached right in the middle, and also want to make sure So when you glue down your axis, make sure that, of course, your axis is perpendicular to the plane of the gear. Right? So if the gear has like an XY plane, then your axis is going to be on the Z axis. Okay? So like that. All right. Now the other half of the axis systems are going to be the large diameter axes. Okay? I'll go ahead and cut feet into these. The one with the teeth, I'm only going to cut about halfway so that it's going to sit up. Let me get an exact number for you guys. This is ultimately going to sit up about, looks about 2.5 centimeters, I think. Okay. This is one I'm putting together. It's going to sit up about 2.5 centimeters. If you get this cut off, I'll show you guys again what I mean, in case you're not sure what I'm talking about. Okay. So cut these feet. Right. So it's going to sit like that. Right. And the height of this axle is about 2.5 centimeters. It's about 2.5 centimeters that way. Okay. The one that's going to go on the pegs has to sit a little bit lower, remember, so that the pegs can come up from underneath and catch the teeth. So I'm going to cut longer feet on this, so it's a bit shorter. Let's see how long this is. This is all the way to about 1.5 centimeters. That looks pretty good. So 1.5 versus 2.5. So this one's going to sit a centimeter underneath the other gear. Probably good height difference. All right. So now I have the large diameter cylinders ready to go. Remember, from the side, these are different heights, right? You got a tall one and a short one. But from above, they look pretty much the same. Right? Tall one, short one. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put these all together, right? So slide the axle systems together, okay? Because before I glue down anything else, I want to make sure that these are in the exact correct position. Okay? Remember, if they're too far apart, the peg's not going to catch the gear at all. If they're too close together, it's just going to jam and not really work. Okay? So, and I'm also looking for, here's the other specification I'm looking for, is that when this peg leaves this tooth, say I'm turning this clockwise, the next gap has to be ready to accept the next peg. Okay? It has to be just in place to do that. Okay. And it looks like, okay, I need to move these a little bit closer together. Okay. So it's going to go right there, right there. That looks pretty good right there. I think that's exactly what I want. Yeah, that's going to catch all the, not that one. Okay. And what I can do too is I can always go back and shave off a little more. So I might, I could either make the gaps wider, or actually I'm going to make them deeper. I think if I make these gaps a little bit deeper, then I can push these gears a bit closer together. And I think that might help me out. Yeah, we'll find out. We'll see what this is going to look like. I'll see that fold trick. It's probably not going to cause me problems. Yeah, we'll find out that too, if it does. Okay. That's a little bit wider. Okay. I can push these a bit closer together. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's running a lot smoother. Okay. Okay. So I like this right here. So I'll go ahead and glue one of these in place and then figure out based on that where the other one's going to go. Okay. Now I'll glue down the tall one that's going to hold the tooth gear. I'll just throw that somewhere on the left side of the base. So catch that right there. Okay. So that's ready to go. Oh, look at that. It's free to spin. So now I know that my small diameter cylinder and large diameter cylinder are optimal size relative to each other because it's free to spin, real easy. But it's also not so long that it's like flopping over, or the difference isn't so big. Right? All right, and then this one, okay, now the tooth gear. Now this is the one that I want to do a test run before I glue it down, so it's not actually glued down yet. Let's get, oh, whoa, it's like getting stuck here. All right, let's see. I got to put it pretty close. All right. Here's my pegs. I have oh, you know what? Maybe I should just go ahead and inspect the other way. There's some paper protection somewhere. I don't know where that is, but glues down at some point. Okay. All right, so I'm throwing my final glue on the large diameter cylinder that's going to be half of the axis for half the axle system for the pegged gear. Slide this together about where I think it needs to go. We've got 10 minutes until we're going to take off for the pep rally. I guess that's what that bell means. 10-minute warning. Okay, I think that looks pretty good right there. That's what I want. I'm going to press this down. Go back the other way with this. Oh, too much. Okay, now before that glue dries, I do have to slide this a little bit closer. Like a little bit closer. Let's try that. Aha! There you go. That's what I want. All right. Okay. So I finished mine. Like you guys heard, we got about 10 minutes until the pep rally. So I'm going to stop this class recording for today and take pictures of this on Google Classroom.